Hi, my name is Emmanuel Gomez, and two of my fellow trainers and I will be discussing some psychology-derived methods and skills to help your athlete recover from his injury, whether it be physical or mental. A lot of people don't understand how important the psychological aspects of injury rehabilitation are. According to a study done by Lydia Igala and Terry Orlick, athletes that healed faster demonstrated more goal-setting and positive self-talk strategies, methods that are taken from psychology. In addition, another study done by Mark Larson and colleagues found that over 90% of trainers think it's important or very important to treat the psychological aspects of injuries. Injury rehabilitation isn't just physical anymore, as more and more professional teams are employing sports psychologists. Phil Jackson, who not only boasts the highest winning percentage of any NBA coach, but also has the record for the most combined championships as a player and head coach with 13, is a big player and believer in sports psychology. If the numbers are any indication, an athlete isn't fully healed until he's ready physically and mentally. But even if you don't believe us, you'll also be hearing from a former D1 and current D3 football player on his many different roads to recovery.
Hello, my name is Kevin Levancy. My first injury that I experienced was in high school. This was, I believe, in 2010. I tore my MCL. And then when I got to college, I went through a series of injuries. Spring 2014, during spring ball, on a plant, I tore my meniscus. I did a meniscus shave, so I recovered quickly from that. And then during the summer of 2014 of my football camp, I took a hit by a tight end. I got rolled up, and I ended up tearing my meniscus in my right knee and my MCL. This was different from my left knee because I had to repair it, which took 6 months. And then after that, I transferred to Tufts, and during the captain's practice on 7-on-7, this wasn't on contact or anything. I caught the ball and hyperextended my knee, and I ended up tearing my hamstring, my ACL, and my meniscus on my left knee.
The first method we want to address are coping skills. Coping can be described as a process of constantly changing cognitive and behavioral efforts to manage specific and/or internal demands or conflicts appraised as taxing or exceeding one's resources. That sounds pretty weird. So in other words, coping describes ways to handle your stress, which may stem from recovering from injury. There are three major types of coping. Problem-focused coping, which involves efforts to alter problems causing stress, which includes behaviors like information gathering, problem solving, and increasing effort, among others.
I use problem coping. I talked to a lot of different doctors and did a lot of research. With the ACL, you have different grafts that you want to use. You can either use your hamstring, or you can use your patella or a cadaver, and I didn't know which one to use. So I talked to my PT trainer, I talked to the doctor, and I did some research online, and I ended up finding out that patella was the best way to go.
Second, there's emotion-focused coping, which involves regulating emotional responses to problems causing stress, which may include mediation, self-blame, and wishful thinking.
I use emotional coping. When I was dealing with that, I played Madden a lot. I felt like as if I was playing, so that was one way to make it still feel that I was on the field, since I couldn't be on the field, or I watch my teammates. Instead of watching, I just play a lot of Madden and make it seem like, oh, this is what I'll be doing next year. I can't wait for next year, instead of sitting down and, I don't know, thinking about how I could have been playing and I would have been depressed.
The main differences between the implementation of the first two are that problem-focused coping is used when problems most likely can't change, while emotion-focused coping is used when problems most likely can change, evident by the situations described by our athletes. Lastly, definitely not the least important, involves social support coping, which involves the athlete seeking emotional support in times of stress.
For social coping, I have a lot of teammates that have been through injuries that were similar. So I went up to them and looked up to them and asked them, like, how did they deal with it? And they helped me the best way they can. They gave me a lot of advice to keep your head up and take it one day at a time and don't rush.
These coping skills may come into use during goal setting, the next method we want to discuss. While almost everyone will agree goals are important, most people need help setting up effective goals. This is where goal setting comes into play. Firstly, they should focus on being specific, setting up objective goals, as opposed to subjective goals that are general, such as I want to do well. They don't really provide a foundation or really a finish line per se. Second, athletes should set up outcome, performance, and process goals. Outcome goals consist of focusing on the result of an event, such as winning a race.
I had to set goals that were somewhat hard but still achievable. I sat down with my trainer. I told him I wanted to be healthy for next season and also become a starter.
Process goals consist of focusing on the action an individual must engage in during performance to do well, such as a basketball player focusing on some element of his shot.
So the first goal was to get off of the crutches, and to do that, I need to focus on putting weight on my feet and not using the crutches so I'm able to walk. And that was a process because I had to really focus on putting on weight. And after I was able to get off of the crutches, I needed to be able to get some extension. And to do extension, you have to stretch every day to break up the scar tissue, which is very painful. That's another process where you just have to fight through the pain.
Performance goals consist of trying to do better than you did last time, like beating your last mile time.
And performance-wise, on all of my exercises, there was a goal for each week to go up on reps. So let's say if I was on a bike, to get more flexibility on the bike, I might do 5 minutes. But next week I can try to do 10 minutes. If I was on a treadmill walking backwards, I'd walk backwards for 2 minutes, and hopefully by next week I'd increase to 5 minutes.
According to a study done by William Philibbe, Ian Murin, and Jane Graydon, athletes who used a combination of these goals produced much better results than those who didn't. Beyond these types, athletes should focus on these things when making goals. Things like specificness, moderate difficulty but realistic, long-term and short-term goals, recording goals, and goal support. But most of all though, athletes recovering from injuries should understand goal setting is not a perfect science. Goals constantly change for everyone, so tell your athlete to not be discouraged. More than 90% of general psychology players show that goal setting has a powerful effect on behavior. These things work, it just takes time and commitment.
Self-determination theory is effective in the recovery of an injured athlete. This theory focuses on 3 basic psychological needs: competence, relatedness, and autonomy. The injured athlete should be able to relate to those around him, helping him to get better, such as personal trainers. The trainer should provide the athlete with a variety of choices of exercises and allow him or her to develop the skills needed to get healthier and stronger. The trainer should be developing the skills with the athlete so he or she can ultimately do it on their own. This will develop the athlete's competency and independence. The injured athlete needs to be educated on the process of his or her injury and their recovery. These 3 basic needs are all necessary to inspire motivation for the athlete in their recovery.
When picking a PT, I had to pick a place where I was going to feel comfortable. For me, I think it's essential that whoever you're working with can understand and also be able to relate to you with your injury and can understand where you're coming from. So my PT trainer, Dave, I was able to relate to him, and he also understands the hard work it takes to come back from an injury. And he's also dealt with NFL pros that had similar injuries with me, so he knew what he was talking about. He made it very relatable for me to work with him, and him also going to college and playing sports himself. That helped me to build more trust with him, that he knows what he's talking about. Going into PT, when you first start, my PT trainer stays by me all the time and makes sure I do everything correctly with perfect form. But as your body gets stronger on whatever you're working on, you start doing more stuff on your own. It becomes more independent. So now I'm further in the process. My PT trainer Dave will just have like a list of things that I need to work on, and I work by myself more. And if I need help, he'll come help me. Whereas when you first start your PT, he works side by side with you.
Recent studies have shown that athletes are at less risk for injuries after stress management training interventions. The techniques included in the healing and rehabilitation process of an injured athlete include the progressive relaxation technique and breath control. Research has also shown that the biggest source of stress for an injured athlete is not the physical aspect of the injuries, but rather the psychological reactions of the injury. For example, the fear of a re-injury or watching their careers fade. Stressors from physical problems also occur. For example, the pain from the injury or dealing with the slow progress of rehabilitation. Physical trainers that teach their injured athletes stress management strategies could significantly help the rehabilitation and decrease the risk of future injuries. Edmund Johnson developed progressive relaxation technique in 1938. This technique involves tensing and then relaxing specific muscles. Athletes are known to have high muscle tension, which increases the chance for injury. The purpose of this specific technique is to help the athlete feel their tension and learn to let it go. The tension relaxation cycle are what help the athlete understand the difference between tension and then the lack of tension. Another mental skill that can potentially be useful for an injured athlete is breath control. Breath control is one of the easiest and most effective ways to reduce anxiety, stress, and muscle tension. The process of the slow and deliberate inhalation and exhalation helps to reduce the anxiety during stressful times.
Something that I noticed in therapy, it's not all physical or all hands-on. A lot of it has to do with breathing. When you start to get healthy, there's another phase where my other PT trainer, Matt, he really focuses on breathing while you're doing your exercises. It's supposed to help relax the body and help you to really focus on the process of becoming more healthier. It's a big part of PT to breathe and exhale and inhale. It really releases tension and frustration. I did a few exercises with Matt, and I benefit from it a lot. It helped me like take the edge off of everything, and especially with the stressful year that I had with the amount of surgeries that I had, breathing was a way to relax while I was working at PT.
Feedback is an important part of an athlete's rehab. Good and positive feedback can facilitate improvement, eliminate bad habits, and most importantly, help motivate the athlete.
I got a lot of feedback from my head coach and players now. What motivated me was they were talking about, think about next year when you come back stronger and healthy and the things that you will be able to do on the field from PT. And every time I think about getting back on the field, and after a long wait of 2 years, I just can't wait. So that really motivates me, knowing what I'm capable of doing and the level that I did come from. I also use a lot of motivation from Dave, because he's shown me other players that had similar injuries as me and came back even stronger and better than they were before they injured themselves.
Rewarding an athlete's hard work is also very important. Rewards can be either extrinsic or intrinsic. Extrinsic rewards are tangible recognition of achievement, such as a trophy or money. An intrinsic reward is intangible, but is still a recognition of achievement that leaves the person rewarded with a feeling of satisfaction.
Because I build a strong relationship with my PT trainer, every time I hit a goal, he rewarded me with something. For example, I was struggling with one of my exercise weights and I was able to go up in it, so he rewarded me a t-shirt of his company. And another example was for my first surgery, once I rehabbed fully and it took a long process, he rewarded me with dinner.
When using these psychological tactics, it is very important to consider that each person is different. Each of these tactics has varying effects on an individual, which depend on factors like age and gender. So it is very important to consider these factors in determining the effectiveness of any of these psychological tactics.